Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Voices in the Game. Happy you all are joining us again, and I cannot wait to get our conversation started with our guest today. He is the founder and owner of the Sportscasters Talent Agency of America. He is Mr. John Chelesnik. John, how you doing, my friend? Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
I'm flattered you invited me, Colton. You know how much I respect and like you. So I'm especially grateful for the opportunity and looking forward to it.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the pleasure's all mine too, John. Yeah. And so thank you so much for joining us. So let's get started, John, on your journey. So you, of course, were first a sportscaster, and that was your ambitions growing up to be a sportscaster before you started STAA. So can you take us back to the beginning? What first drew you into pursuing a career in sports broadcasting? And was there any particular game or moment that put in your brain, hey, I think this is what I want to do?
I know that's the case for a lot of people. For me, it wasn't so much a moment, but a realization that I would guess most sportscasters have. And that is, I realized in high school I wasn't going to be paid to play games for a living. So, what's the next best way to get paid to go to games? I thought, aha, sportscasting. And so that's why I got into it. I started doing some stuff in high school. We had a class that provided some play-by-play opportunities, and I did very much enjoy it. And you know what's funny, Colton? I think the aspect of it I enjoyed most continued to be the aspect of it I most enjoyed throughout my career, and that was the preparation. Really got a kick out of that.
Oh, well, that's amazing, John. And then, so, as you can see from your background, you are a graduate of Kansas State going to Manhattan, Kansas. So, what was that like, John, being a student at Kansas State? Did you get any broadcasting experience there? Oh, and also, how was it like, walking on, trying out for the Kansas State basketball team as well when you were there?
It was cool, man. I was in the basketball program for my first 2 years, freshman and sophomore years, and enjoyed that so much. It was such a unique and fun experience. I met many wonderful people, so that was cool. The school part of it wasn't a difficult transition for me. I wasn't any kind of great student in high school or college, but yeah, the curriculum at Kansas State's not, it's not an Ivy League, so I call it the Princeton of the Plains affectionately because I loved Kansas State. But the transition academically wasn't difficult, and I did get a lot of broadcasting time on the campus radio station, which is still going strong today. So I got to participate in academics, basketball, and broadcasting, and made for a fun, fulfilling experience in my 4 years there.
Yeah, and then after graduation, John, what was that like breaking into the sportscasting industry after you received your diploma from Kansas State?
Hmm. There's so many different things that come to mind. It's a wonderful question. It was a little more challenging than I anticipated it was going to be. And of course, it was before the internet, so it was harder to find openings. So I came back home to San Diego to start my job search. And it took, well, it was November before I started graduating in May. It was November before I got a job. And in between, I drove myself sometimes invited, other times not, to small market radio and TV stations to introduce myself. Many of them in Southern California, but also in Grand Island, Nebraska, and interviewed for a job in Clay Center, Kansas. But what really turned the trick for me, and this probably is still a good idea, I registered for the Kansas Broadcasters Association. I have a job bank, and every state still has a broadcaster association with a job bank. My eventual employer found my resume there, contacted me, and I got the job in small town McPherson, Kansas. So that's uh, that's how I got started. It's different today. Job searching is different today with the internet, but really, it still is always just boiled down to putting yourself in a platform where people can meet you and where you introduce yourself to employers.
Yeah, talk about your time in Kansas, John. When you went back there, as a postgraduate sports broadcaster. What was that experience like, heading back to Kansas, and really starting to get your feet wet as a sportscaster there?
McPherson was a town of 12,000 people, and that was a big change from a guy that grew up in San Diego, a mile from the beach. So that was the most difficult part of the transition was being away from home. But I had been told by a mentor, go where the jobs are. And there weren't many people my age in the community. There was a couple of small colleges. I was just out of college, but I didn't really feel I should be fraternizing with the college students because I was, a professional. And the rest of the population was, married with kids. So I was in between both those things. It took me a while uh, to get comfortable socially in that regard, but it was worth it. And the other thing too is when I got the job, my sister gave me a card, and it's in my desk drawer right here to this day. And she says, "Hey, John, congratulations on the job. Don't worry, you'll be back in San Diego soon enough if you want to be." And she was right. It was only 3 years later that my second job was at the big all sports station in San Diego. So I hope the takeaway from my story, Colton, is go where the jobs are and realize that that difficult circumstance is not going to be for the rest of your life. And when you look back on your time, and you experienced this to a degree, when you look back on that time in your first job in the market where you might not have been most comfortable, it is such a small dot on the map of your life. And the older you get, and the farther in your rear view mirror that first job gets behind you, you're barely even going to remember it. Make that investment in yourself because it's worth it. That was the foundation for the rest of my career.
Yeah, that's amazing, John. And then what was that like, getting the chance, to move back home to San Diego, and expanding on your career as a sportscaster there?
Oh my gosh, it was awesome because one, it was home, like you said. Two, this was back in the nascent days of sports talk radio. Our station was one of only three in the country at the time. And it was a blowtorch of a state. Signal went everywhere up and down the West Coast. So it was cool to be on this prestigious station in kind of a niche programming, area with sports talk, to be in my hometown again. But what really made it cool was it was the culmination of a 2 year effort to get on board at that station. I had been mailing, again, it's before email and internet. I've been mailing the program director my demos for 2 years. And I don't think, as I recall, I never even received a reply. So I finally said, you know what? If I'm going to move there, I've got to move there. So I moved to San Diego and picked up part-time work outside the industry, went down and introduced myself to him. And he said, "Oh," he had a light bulb moment. "If I had known you lived in or you're from San Diego, that would have been a different story." Well, I told him in every single letter that I'm from San Diego. But the funniest thing, Colton, and the reason I went into this detail on the story, after I'd been at the station for about 6 months, I was in the program director's office, and in the corner was a box full of audio cassettes. Again, that's how you mailed your demos back in the day. I started looking through the box, and one, two, three, four, five. I pulled out six of my old demo cassettes that I had mailed to him over the years. That's what he did with people who mailed demos. He threw them in the box on the corner of his office. I found all mine, took them, and then recycled them later.
Oh my goodness, John. Oh wow, that is absolutely amazing, and sticking with that, you talked about how you were really a go-getter, when you were breaking into the industry. Can you maybe talk about how that persistence was able to pay off for you? And I bet there were a lot of nerves, when you went out there and cold introducing yourself to these people, because it seemed like you were pretty much going into the unknown.
Yes, very much so. But the want to work there. The desire outweighed the discomfort of somebody back. That version of me was exceptionally shy. And today I still am much more of a recluse than people would think. So it was really hard for me to go introduce myself like that. But again, the desire to work there outweighed that. And one cool thing that made it a little bit easier, one of the employees of the station was my third grade, junior league basketball coach. And I don't remember if he really remembered me or not, but I told him, I reminded him that he had been. And so he was a really big help in getting me in front of the right people and making me feel comfortable. And to this day, he and I are friends and still go to high school football and basketball games together.
Oh, wow. That is amazing, John. And, when you think back on your time, when you were a sportscaster, what are some of your favorite moments, that always pop into your head?
Off-air stuff. Uh, the two that come immediately to mind are doing arena football back when Kurt Warner was in the league. We actually played Kurt Warner and the Barnstormers in Des Moines. It was so much fun, but traveling with the Anaheim Piranhas was a blast because I was maybe 26, 27 years old. I was relatively the same age as many of the players. So it was just fun traveling with those guys. It was a blast sitting in the airport, sitting on the planes, going out to dinner. Just such a great time. And similarly, when I was at ESPN Radio Network, I hosted a show for 4 years there. The camaraderie with my producer and the board operator and the sports update anchor or various anchors that worked on my show before we went on air and during commercial breaks. That was the most fun. I enjoyed the on-air part, most certainly, but the camaraderie with those clowns, and I say that with the utmost affection, that was the most fun. We would cut up during breaks and after the show was put together and we had some extra, we just had a great time. So it's the people and the camaraderie. And I draw a parallel, Colton, to athletes when you ask them, hey, what do you most enjoy about your career? It's never the games, it's the people. And it's the same in radio, for me anyway.
Yeah, and then John, you talked about how you were somebody who enjoyed the preparation aspect of what it takes to be a sportscaster. So what were the main differences that you did to prepare for your radio show compared to doing play by play, like when you were with the Piranhas?
With play by play, I was researching mostly people, players and coaches. With the talk, I was researching topics. But the places I would go for the research was different because it was two different eras. When I was doing play by play, the majority of my play by play career was again before the internet. And so that wasn't an option for preparation. Instead, I would rely on newspapers and talking to people, players, coaches, administrators, and whatnot for information. By the time I got to ESPN radio, the internet was still in its early years, but most of what you needed to know to host a talk show was available there. And so I could do my research that way, and it made it a lot easier.
Yeah, and then, fast forward to the turn of the century, with now what is known as STAA. When did you first consider the idea for beginning STAA and, still staying in the sportscasting industry, but leaving the on-air side and focusing on the business side of the business?
Yeah, that's easy. It was November, or I guess December of 2000, hang on, 2003. In July of that year, just 6 months, 5 months earlier, I was at the height of my career. I was in my fourth year on ESPN radio as a host, and I was with a startup company called the Football Network doing play-by-play. And this was before even the NFL network. It was a cable network devoted totally to football. By December of that year, ESPN radio had replaced me, and the Football Network went under before they even finished their first season. We got through most of it, but not quite all of it. So July, I was riding high, December, unemployed. So I thought, man, this is kind of for the birds. I wanted the rewards of my career to be in direct proportion to the amount of effort I put into it. And I was finding that's not always the case in broadcasting. So what else can I do to make a living with what was then a very limited skill set? I knew sportscasting and I knew how to play the sportscasting job market. Not like I know now, but I knew more than the next guy. And so that's enough to start a business. That's why I got into uh, helping other sportscasters with their careers. But the other thing, Colton, that just fits so perfectly with my personality, I love to help people, especially people who are kind of underdogs, because I identify with that within my own background. So the fact that I can take the only thing I know in life, sports, and I've learned some business and other skills related, but at that time, I could take the one thing I knew and feed the largest aspect of my personality, the largest desire within my personality, just to help people. And it's worked out perfectly with STAA that it's a vehicle for me to accomplish both of those things.
When did you see the market, John, of maybe there could be a market for a sportscasting agency? Because in one of our earlier episodes of Voices in the Game, we were talking about, I know, Doug Birdsong, another STAA member, or STAA member, who's the voice of the Bucknell Bison. He was talking about how he got his start after he graduated from Marshall. And it was really just, you just had to go on magazines and hopeful for the best, obviously before the internet came around.
Mhm. Well, first of all, Doug is one of the nicest people, as are you, frankly. You guys are two of the nicest people I've ever met. I can't imagine the good vibes that came out of that podcast episode with you and Doug. Um, now I forgot the question. Well, how has it changed?
Yeah, yeah. First off, I really appreciate that, John. It's just,
Yeah.
did you really see that there could be a
Oh,
market
I got you. I
maybe
remember
with
now.
the internet?
Yeah.
With the internet in existence at that time in
Thank you.
2003.
Thank you for refreshing my memory. What STAA is today is not at all how it started. So to say that I saw this need would be giving me way too much credit. When I started in business for myself, it was simply building demo and resume portfolio packages for people that they could mail to job openings that would help set them apart. Then the internet came along and grew, and I realized, well, wait a minute, I can put people's demo and resume on a web page. And I thought, let me, try it for a handful of people. And everybody I offered it to said yes. And so I said, wonder if they'll pay me a little bit each month to keep it on the internet. Because now they can just email this link to employers instead of a bunch of demo and resume attached. And people kept saying yes. I thought, oh, maybe I'm onto something here. Well, then I would start hearing about job openings because I was in contact with employers all the time and still am. So I started learning about job openings and thought, wonder if these people who pay me to host their demo and resume would appreciate job openings. So I started emailing to them, didn't raise the price they were paying or the cost. So then job openings came along. And then people started saying, gosh, I'd love to get critiques on my stuff. So we made that part of the membership with what we call group critiques. So all this stuff just kind of came by paying attention to what people need. I would get the same questions over and over. And now, there's a couple hundred questions that I probably get kind of regularly. And so I thought, well, instead of people always having to email for answers, let me build a member community where they can just go and get the answers to all these common questions. And when they ask me, I can just direct them to the resource in the community. So I didn't have this big clairvoyant thought or brilliant thought. It's just, oh, people keep asking me for this as one-offs. Let me just make it part of what they're paying to have their demo and resume on the website. And the funny thing, Colton, is even though I started in business making demo and resume packages for people. We stopped doing that 7 or 8 years ago. It's not even part of the business anymore, but it was the business at the start.
Oh, well, yeah, that all is just so amazing, John. And, how was it like, when you first started it? How were you able to get the message out there for STAA? Because obviously it's grown nationwide. You living in San Diego and me living in Pittsburgh. So obviously it's nationwide. So how were you able, to get it past San Diego and to really market it when you first started it?
It's a great story. Uh, so when I first started building demo and resume packages for somebody, or for sportscasters, and somebody I knew, a casual acquaintance, said, "Hey, I want to go into business with you." So I was going on to a old website that doesn't exist anymore that had some sportscasting jobs on it. And I would just contact everybody on there, "Hey, you want me to build your demo and resume for you?" So then I got a pretty good email list at that point. When I dissolved the partnership with this other person, he said there was, I don't know, maybe several $100s worth of outstanding bills that people owed us money for demo and resumes. He was short-sighted. He wanted that. I said, okay, I get the redirect for the website. So people would go to our old website that was for demo and resumes and be redirected to my brand new STAA website. That was worth hundreds of times to what he wanted in the short term. I need money in my wallet now. And that's how people found out about STAA. And ever since then, it's word of mouth and social media and stuff like that. But we've never advertised. People tell their friends about us, and that's how it grows.
Yeah, and obviously, John, you have really grown this into a phenomenal community, personally like me, that I am so honored, to be a part of. So if you can you maybe tell us maybe some notable names, that people might know who started off in STAA and were able
Oh,
to get on to the next level, and what has that experience been like for you getting to see so many SCAA members move up to the national ranks, the professional ranks, and really just anywhere in between in this industry?
I am going to I'm going to rattle off a bunch of names because we have a page on our website, notable alumni. Drew Carter of the Celtics, Carlo Jimenez of the Clippers. Carlo's an active member. Chris Lewis, who's now with CBS, Amanda Ballione. And these are all people that were with us for at least 3 years. They weren't, 3-month cup of coffee members. They were with us for at least 3 years, many of them double digits. Mike Monaco at ESPN, Chris Vosters, Josh Appel, Justin Shackle, Wayne Randazzo, who's been with the Angels for several years, Gary Hill has been with the Mariners broadcast team for many years, Jeff Arnold of the Orioles. There's many, many more. Tyler Murray was with us for 12 years until he got the Knicks job. John Fanta is still a member. There's several other guys in the NBA, Major League Baseball. So that gives you an idea, though, of some of the folks who started their careers with us.
Yeah, that's awesome, John. And what has that been like for you getting to see all of those names that you rattled off, getting the chance to go to those national levels, knowing that they got their start by really joining STAA?
It's super cool. In some cases, I know exactly what I did that helped them with that position, but in other cases, I don't know. But I do have confidence in the fact that the things they learned through their membership about the best ways to put together a demo and format a resume and write a cover letter and follow up your applications and the different resources for how to improve your craft. Chris Lewis and Carlo Jimenez would send stuff every month for our group critiques. Carlo joined us as a freshman in college, would submit something every month for our group critiques. And he won our Jim Nantz Award as a senior and then walked off campus into the Clippers play-by-play job. Um, Chris Lewis, same story. would submit stuff every month. So while I can't say they got their jobs because, of their time with STAA, it just kind of seems logical anyway that some of the stuff they learned helped them. And if they didn't think it was helping them, they wouldn't have been with us for so many years. Chris Lewis was with us for, gosh, I don't want to, maybe 8 years or more. He's with us for a long time. So again, these aren't cup of coffees, the names that I've given you. So hopefully some of the things that they picked up through their membership did help them as they continued building their careers.
Yeah, and John, something, that's well known with STAA is a specific award that you have, which is named after world-renowned play-by-play announcer Jim Nantz, known as the Jim Nantz Award. So what is the award, for people who might not know, and what was the inspiration behind to create it?
The award goes to the nation's most outstanding collegiate sportscaster, as chosen by me and our panel of judges, that includes almost exclusively former Nantz Award winners. Tom Bowman from Learfield and Howard Deneroff, who was with Westwood One forever. They're also, judges who are non-Nantz winners. The genesis of it came I think it's the second year of STAA. And I always enjoyed looking at the college football top 20. Where's K-State? I thought it'd be kind of cool to have a top 20 for collegiate sportscasters. And that's sort of how it started. But can I share you a fun story about how it continued?
Of course, John.
Okay, so the first year, I contacted Jim Nantz's agent and said, "Hey, I'd like to put his name on this award. And here's the reasons why." They all boiled down to my respect for Nantz. And he said, "Sure, we'll try it for a year." I thought, sweet. When year two came around, I thought, do I ask the agent if I can do it again? Or do I just take the chance that because he hasn't told me I can't, that I can? I took the latter because I thought if I contact him, he might say no. So I did it again the second year. And we're in year 17 or so. I always lose track exactly. But I still haven't heard back from his agent to tell me no. And Jim has been a fabulous, fabulous supporter of the award and does many things behind the scenes that I don't publicize because I don't think he would want them publicized, but to help the award. Uh, it's been a really, really neat partnership. I'm so grateful to Jim and his agent for taking a chance on an affiliation with me who'd been in business for a year and they didn't know me from Adam. Might not have been smart in hindsight for them to take such a chance on with a stranger and Jim's impeccable name in our end. Who knows the damage some dork could have done to his name and reputation. But frankly, it keeps me working hard to make the award great because I'm so grateful for Jim putting his name on it.
And overall, John, what has been the impact with you owning and operating STAA for over 20 years now? And did you ever expect in your wildest dreams that it would grow to what it has become today?
I remember when early on, I was emailing some employers who had openings. I said, "Hey, we have a database of 35 sportscasters. So check it out. You might find your next employee here." I thought 35 was amazing. And uh, we have, I'll just say, grown exponentially since then. And when we hit certain milestones, I always think, "Oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. I can't believe this is where it's at." But the motivation has never been uh, financially or financial. It's always been just wanting to make it better and to serve our members and to grow. Because if you're not growing with whatever you're doing in life, if you're not getting better, you're falling behind. And I found that if you just, in fact, I heard this, one of my virtual mentors, never met the guy, but Jim Rohn, Rohn, would always say, you'll get everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. And that's been the case with STAA. So I don't look at the finance. How many people can I help and how can I help them? And genuinely care about them and help them from that perspective. And the rest takes care of itself.
Yeah, that's all amazing, John. And ballpark estimate, do you know how many members you're up to now, and where can people go if they have an interest in joining STAA?
I do know how many members. This is so weird because I'm transparent with everything. I've never been comfortable with sharing the number because I don't want people to think that we have too many members that I can't pay attention to them, because that is not the case. Part of the membership, Colton, is unlimited email and text consulting, and I do that. I don't have, you're not reaching out to an employee, you're reaching out to the owner of the company when you want suggestions or advice. So I've never given out the number. Um, for that reason, even now I'm trying to think, how much more should I say? So if you're cool, I just kind of like to leave it at that.
Oh, sure, John.
I just want people, I don't want them to think that they're just going to be a name on a roster. Uh, but for people to learn more, just go to staatalent.com, staatalent.com, and on social, it's at STAA Talent.
Okay, yeah. That is all amazing, John. So, and then what advice do you have for anybody who has an interest in pursuing a career, in the sports industry, whether it's, either being a sportscaster or, a business owner like yourself?
My advice to anybody in any industry is to build relationships. A lot of people call it networking, but at STAA, we prefer to call it relationship building because networking comes from a place of, what can you do for me? But relationship building comes from a place of, what can I do for you? And when you build relationships, people want to help you in return. So that's the biggest thing. If you want to be a sportscaster or work in another industry of some kind, or you want to advance in your chosen field, just be of service to people, build relationships, and be genuine about it. Because believe me, I've seen approaches where it's clearly, even though they're saying, presenting it, hey, how can I help? It's very transactional. But when you do it genuinely, and you know this as well as anybody, Cole, you're so good at relationship building. You are awesome at it. Uh, that's what I suggest to people. Build genuine relationships, and you can do whatever you want in life.
Yeah, no, finally, John, for you. Overall, what has been your most favorite memory working and being a part of the sports industry?
Ooh, that might be a couple things. I mentioned the camaraderie of the on-air part of my career, but I think what might even trump that is accomplishing things that I never thought I could. I never thought I could make the basketball team at K-State as a walk-on, but then I also never thought I could get the ESPN radio network, and I never thought I could start a business. So to answer your question, it's the ESPN radio network and starting a business within the sportscasting industry, and having it be around for as long as it has now. Those things bring me great pride and self-satisfaction.
Yeah, John, this is all just such phenomenal stuff, and as somebody who is an active member of STAA, I can't thank you enough for everything that you have done in my career, and really getting to know your story as well for everybody listening out there. I can't thank you enough for taking a few moments out of your day, John, to chat with me.
I'm grateful. You asked wonderful questions, Colton. You were well researched, and I loved the introspection that your questions encouraged in myself. So thank you a ton, and thank you for your support of me and for your friendship. I'm fortunate that some of my members turn into friends. You're in that category, and I appreciate you, man.